Most men don't realize they're not nice. They're strategically agreeable, and psychology has a name for it: people-pleasing disguised as kindness. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Being a nice guy isn't about being good to others. It's about needing approval so badly that you slowly erase yourself to keep it. And the strange part, the more you try to be liked, the less respect, attraction, and emotional depth you actually get in return. So here's the question that might sting a little. Are you actually a nice man or just addicted to being liked? And if it's the second one, what is it costing you in your relationships without you even realizing it? In the next few minutes, you're going to go through a 10-question psychological self-check. Not a personality test, but a behavioral mirror. Each question reveals a pattern that psychologists often link to approval-seeking behavior, weak boundaries, and what's sometimes called the Fawn response, a stress reaction where you prioritize keeping others happy over your own needs. And here's the promise: by the end of this video, you won't just know whether you fall into this pattern. You'll also understand exactly how to start breaking it. Because this isn't about becoming cold, distant, or selfish. It's about becoming grounded enough that your kindness stops costing you your identity. Imagine a friend asks for a favor. You're tired, busy, and already overwhelmed, but you still say yes. Later, you feel drained and slightly resentful, but you never express it. This is one of the clearest signs of approval-driven behavior. Psychologically, it's tied to fear of rejection and loss of connection. Your brain associates no with potential abandonment. The fix isn't to become rigid, it's to create a pause. Train yourself to say, "Let me get back to you." That small gap breaks the automatic yes response and restores choice. And once choice returns, respect for yourself begins to grow again. But here's where it gets deeper. You notice something off in a relationship, a tone, a pattern, a boundary being crossed, but you stay silent because you don't want tension. This often comes from what psychology calls conflict avoidance conditioning. If you grew up around unpredictable reactions, your nervous system learned that peace equals safety. But adult relationships require emotional honesty, not silent endurance. Start small. Express discomfort in low-stakes situations. "That didn't sit right with me" is enough. You're not starting a fight, you're building emotional visibility, and once you become visible, you stop disappearing in relationships, which leads directly into the next pattern. You send a simple message, but then add 3 paragraphs of justification. You apologize for things that don't require apologies. You try to prove your intentions are good. This is a sign of external validation dependency, when your sense of correctness depends on how others interpret you. But psychologically, over-explaining often reduces credibility instead of increasing it. Confident people don't over-justify, they state and stand. Practice this shift. Replace explanations with statements. Instead of, "Sorry, I can't because I'm really tired and had a long day," just say, "I can't make it tonight." Clarity builds respect. Excess explanation often signals insecurity. Now let's go deeper. Question 4. Do you feel responsible for other people's emotions? If someone is upset, do you immediately feel like it's your job to fix it, even when you didn't cause it? This is emotional over-responsibility, and it often develops in people who learned early that keeping others calm was safer than expressing themselves. But here's a psychological truth. You can support someone's emotions without owning them. Try this mental separation. I can care without caring. You can listen, you can empathize, but you don't absorb. Because when you carry everyone's emotional weight, you eventually collapse under expectations that were never yours to begin with. And that brings us to a subtle but powerful pattern. You're in one group and you agree with them. You're in another and your perspective shifts again. It's not deception, it's adaptation without grounding. This is linked to identity diffusion, where self-image becomes flexible based on social environment. The problem: people can sense inconsistency even if they can't articulate it. And more importantly, you start losing your own internal compass. The fix is simple but uncomfortable. Hold one opinion quietly even when it's not popular. Not aggressively, just consistently. Because identity is not built in agreement. It's built in stability under pressure. And here's where things start to shift. Here's something most people never consider. Psychologists have found that chronic people pleasers often report more loneliness, not less. Why? Because relationships built on approval aren't built on authenticity, they're built on performance. So here's a question that might change how you see yourself. If no one needed to be impressed, who would you actually be in your relationships? Even a small disappointment like delayed replies or unmet expectations creates internal discomfort. This is tied to rejection sensitivity, where the nervous system interprets disapproval as threat. But not all disappointment is rejection. Sometimes it's just life. A powerful shift is learning emotional tolerance, letting others be disappointed without rushing to fix it. Say less. Observe more. Let discomfort exist without immediate correction. Because emotional strength is not about avoiding disapproval, it's about surviving it without losing yourself. And that leads to something even deeper. You're the one checking in, you're the one initiating, you're the one adjusting. At first, it feels like generosity, but over time, it becomes imbalance. Psychologically, this often connects to conditional self-worth. If I give enough, I will be valued. But healthy relationships are reciprocal, not transactional. Start noticing patterns, not moments. Who invests when you stop initiating? That answer reveals reality faster than emotions ever will. Because effort without reciprocity isn't love. It's self-neglect with good intentions. Now let's go further into a quieter pattern. Where do you want to eat? What movie do you prefer? You often say, I'm fine with anything. On the surface, it looks flexible. But psychologically, it can signal suppressed preference expression. Over time, this creates a subtle identity erosion. You stop knowing what you actually like, start practicing micro-preferences, choose the restaurant, pick the plan, state opinions without apology. At first, it feels unnatural. That's normal. You're rebuilding internal voice strength because desire is not selfish. It's information about who you are. And now the next pattern is where many men get stuck. You show patience, you show consistency, you show emotional support, and deep down, there's a quiet expectation. Eventually, this will be enough. This is one of the most misunderstood patterns. It's not manipulation, it's emotional hope without clarity, but attraction doesn't work like repayment. It responds to emotional presence, not accumulated effort. The shift is painful but freeing. Give without hidden contracts. If you feel the need to be chosen, ask yourself whether you are expressing desire clearly or hoping behavior will replace communication. Because unspoken expectations are where disappointment quietly grows. And finally, when someone no longer depends on you, do you feel invisible, unimportant, replaced? This reveals a deeper identity issue, self-worth tied to usefulness. Psychologically, this often forms when validation came from being helpful rather than being valued. But relationships built only on usefulness eventually collapse because need fades, but connection must remain. The shift is profound. Stop trying to be needed. Start allowing yourself to be chosen. There is a difference between being valuable and being used for value, and learning that difference changes everything. Here's the truth most men don't hear clearly enough. Being a nice guy isn't the problem. Losing yourself inside your kindness is. When you constantly adjust, avoid, explain, and overgive, you're not building connection, you're negotiating your own invisibility. And slowly, without noticing, you start living a version of life where you are liked, but not deeply known, needed, but not truly chosen, present, but not fully seen. Real attraction, real respect doesn't come from perfection. It comes from presence with boundaries, from honesty without fear of rejection, from kindness that does not require self-erasure. And the most important shift isn't becoming different, it's becoming reacquainted with yourself, because the moment you stop performing approval, you finally make space for something real to exist. If this resonated with you, it probably means you recognized at least one pattern that's been running quietly in the background of your relationships. The question now isn't, am I a nice guy? It's, where am I abandoning myself in the name of being liked? And I'm curious, out of the 10 questions, which one hit closest to home for you? You can share it in the comments, not for validation, but for clarity. Sometimes naming a pattern is the first step in changing it. In the next video, we'll go deeper into how emotional attraction actually forms and why some men are remembered long after they leave, while others are forgotten even when they try harder. Because attraction isn't about effort alone, it's about psychological presence. And once you understand that, you stop chasing connection and start building it from a completely different place.